Ellen Craft was a female activist born in 1826 and lived to 1900 in Clinton, Georgia. She was known for her remarkable escape from slavery, where she posed as a young male slave owner. Ellen Craft was a daughter of a slave named Maria. Her father was Major James Smith, the mother's owner. He was also from Clinton, Georgia. He was of a wealthy family. Ellen Craft stood out as a determined and resourceful woman. She later met William and received permission for marriage in December of 1848, and they both devised a plan called Escape Slavery, wrote a book called Running a Thousand Miles for Freedom in 1860. Ellen Craft, who was of a light skin tone, devised the escape plan to become a slave owned in a man's disguise. She had the most difficult role to impersonate a gender and appear educated. While William remained a slave in his devising of a plan to escape, they both worked together to establish those details to escape. They both concluded that the journey to become successful had to be by train or by public transportation. Ellen's disguise was of a young man whose face was covered with a white handkerchief, and her arm was in a cast to disguise her writing capabilities. She cut her hair short and wore men's clothing to disguise as a gentleman. The two ventured north on a journey by train and a ferry to Baltimore, Maryland, where that was their last trip in a slavery territory. They reached their destination on Christmas Day in Philadelphia in 1848. The trip took 8 days. While in Philadelphia, the Crafts were taken in by befriended Quakers and other blacks. They were white folks whom taught them how to write their names while they were recuperating approximately 3 weeks from their long journey. The Crafts fled to Boston and were assisted by three abolitionists. They arranged appearances and continued developing their skills. Ellen became a seamstress and learned upholstery trades for 2 years. Crafts had to flee England by force because of attempts to have them return back to slavery from their previous owners. Abolitionists fought for their freedom in the Vigilance Committee of Boston and helped them flee. The Crafts married before leaving Boston for a second time in 1850 of November. They traveled in Maine by land and then by a steamer in Halifax to Liverpool and encountered racial prejudices. They were on free soils for the first time. In England in December of 1850, the Crafts continued to evoke interest. An interviewer of the Chambers of Edinburgh Journal defined Ellen as a fair and beautiful 24-year-old with a British descent. William was also a dark and intelligent, dignified deportment. When attending the Crystal Palace exhibit in London with William Brown, an abolitionist, in 1851, the ex-slaves were of an exhibit. William made a point of promenading with them so the world would form an opinion of the African race and their fitness to freedom. The Crafts continued their education in Ockham School near Ripley, Surrey. It was a trade school founded by a widow of a poet named Lady Noel Byron, and they both learned and taught their manual skills to others, and they also were taught their literacy skills. The Crafts had 5 children, all born in England, 4 boys and 1 girl. Ellen and William waited till they were free to have her family. She talked about her determination to be free and spoke of it frequently in her interviews. Rumor spoke of the Crafts feeling somewhat homesick for their family that was still in the Americas and enslaved. But Ellen states she would rather starve in England, being free, than as a slave in America. Ellen was active in the Foreign Freed Men's Aid Society to educate other Blacks youth, founded in 1861 by an American Missionary Association supported by Presbyterian and Methodist churches in the North. William was primary spokesperson during the Civil War and worked against support for the Confederacy between 1862 and 67. There he made 2 trips to Dahomey in Western Africa that flourished in the 18th century to the 19th. The Crafts returned to the States and purchased land in Georgia, Bryan County, near Savannah. They opened an industrial school for the colored youth, and later they moved back and settled in their plantation in Georgia until their death. In December of 1865, due to the Union measures such as the Confiscation Acts and the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, the war ended slavery. The 13th Amendment in December of 1865 formally ended the legal institution through the United States.